I never came into their lives trying to be a replacement. Cody was 16, Alex 14. Marissa's boys from her first marriage. I told myself I'd be the steady hand they never had. Not flashy, not loud, just there, present. But presence doesn't mean anything to boys who still light candles for a ghost. The first year I let the eye rolls slide. The muttered whatever-s, the slammed doors, the way they never looked up from their phones when I said good morning. Marissa called it teenage stuff. I called it the price of admission. They had a father somewhere, a man who sent birthday texts late, if at all. But still, he loomed. Every time I bought them something, a new bike, school trip, new shoes, they'd say, "Dad said he would have gotten me that anyway." Every damn time. Like I was just a runner-up filling a temporary gap. Like generosity from me was merely catching up to promises another man made and broke. And yet I paid. Quietly, endlessly. I paid for the things they never thanked me for. Cleats, doctor visits, school lockers. I paid in hours too. Rides to practices, waiting in the car, the quiet expectation that I'd be invisible until something was needed. I told myself this was how trust was built, quietly over time. One mundane gesture at a time. Marissa would smile at me sometimes after dinner, when they were upstairs. She'd say things like, "They just need time." I believed her, because I wanted to believe her. Because the only thing worse than their indifference was the possibility that it was permanent. The cracks started small. The kind of things you'd see and immediately rationalize. Cody once called me Marissa's husband at his parent-teacher conference. Even though I was the one who showed up when she had work. Alex would ask her for money even when he knew she didn't have it, because he also knew she'd ask me. I started to notice patterns. Their refusal to speak to me directly unless they wanted something. How they always waited for Marissa to repeat anything I said, as if my words were foreign until translated by her voice. Still, I stayed. Still, I made their lunches, their dentist appointments, paid their school fees. Still, I hoped. Then came that Wednesday night. It was late. I'd gotten home from work around 8, my back sore, feet dragging. I heard them shouting in the living room. Something about a video game, loud voices, profanity. I stepped in, calm, not trying to be the tough guy. Just tired. "Hey, knock it off. It's late." They froze. Looked at me like I was a stranger who had walked into the wrong house. Cody turned. Dead in the eyes. Voice flat. No emotion, just steel. "You're not our real dad. Stop pretending." Alex didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He didn't even look away. He just nodded. Like they'd rehearsed it. Like it was truth that had been waiting in the wings for the right moment to be delivered. And something in me quietly, irrevocably, shut off. Not rage. Not sorrow. Just stillness. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I just stood there, watching them. Watching what I had invested years into look me in the face and tell me it was all for nothing. All those car rides. All those nights waiting up when they missed curfew. All the bills. All the patience. They didn't want a father. They wanted a wallet. They wanted someone to clean up after the broken promises of a man they called Dad, when it suited them. And me? I was the fool who stepped in, thinking love would be enough. I went to bed that night next to Marissa, my body beside hers, but my mind somewhere else. I didn't tell her what they said. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I knew how it would go. They didn't mean it. They're just kids. Don't take it personally. But I did take it personally. Because it was personal. They had spoken clearly. They drew a line in the sand, and they dared me to step back. So I did. That weekend, I removed my card from their school account. Markwood Academy, the private school both boys attended, sent an email first. Then a phone call. Payment declined. I ignored it. 2 days later, the headmaster called Marissa. She asked me about it that night. Her voice soft, uncertain. Did something happen with the tuition? I looked her dead in the eye. Just thought it was time their real dad started contributing. She didn't push. Not that night. But something in her eyes changed. A flicker of fear. Or maybe recognition. Like a woman watching a slow collapse begin and realizing she'd helped build the faulty foundation. The boys didn't mention it. Didn't ask. Didn't care. Maybe they thought it was an oversight. Maybe they thought Mom would handle it. But the silence that followed wasn't just a gap in conversation. It was the beginning of absence. Mine. I came home the next day to silence. Not peace. Not calm. Silence like something had rotted in the walls. They used to argue, complain, demand. Now the house was still. No stomping upstairs. No slamming doors. Just earbuds in, backs turned, and the occasional sarcastic chuckle from behind a screen. I thought I'd feel relieved, but all I felt was hollow. I moved through the house like a ghost. No greetings. No acknowledgement. I cooked dinner that night, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, broccoli. Set the table for 4 like always. They didn't come down. Didn't even glance up when I called out. Marissa said, "They're just tired, right?" I sat there alone at the table, eating the food I made for a family that didn't want me in it. I watched the clock tick toward 8:30. Still no footsteps. No clatter of plates. No thank you. Just the hum of their screens upstairs. The food cooled. I scraped it into Tupperware and shoved it into the fridge. No one said goodnight. Around 10, I walked past Cody's door on the way to the laundry room. It was slightly ajar. I didn't mean to listen. God knows I wish I hadn't. But I heard him talking, laughing. "He's just an ATM," Cody said, into the phone. No clue why he still tries to act like a dad. I froze. The hallway felt colder than the fridge. The words sank into my chest like black water. My hand was still on the laundry basket, half tilted, socks spilling over the edge. I stood there, listening to him laugh about me. About the man who paid for everything, who drove him to school, who spent 2 days building his damn computer desk when the instructions made no sense. Act like a dad. That's what he said. As if I were pretending. As if I hadn't lived every day for the past 7 years putting them ahead of myself. I backed away, slow, quiet. Didn't say a word. Didn't confront. Just walked back down the stairs, through the kitchen into my office. Sat there in the dark for a long time. The glow of the monitor was the only light in the room. I opened the bank account, then the school tuition portal, the rideshare apps, their streaming logins, the gym memberships, every financial string that tied me to these boys who wanted nothing to do with me, just the benefits. I started pulling plugs. First the tuition. The next payment wasn't due for another 2 weeks, but I canceled the auto transfer. Then Cody's gym. Alex's music lessons, monthly app store limits, iCloud backups, Uber, Spotify, Netflix, Hulu, the debit cards I'd given them for emergencies. I froze everything. One by one, I stripped away every piece of comfort they never earned. I took back the iPads I bought them for Christmas, pulled the chargers out of their rooms, closed the Amazon sub-accounts they used to order nonsense with a single click. Removed my card from Google Pay, and when I was done, I sat in that chair, staring at the empty payment fields. And I didn't feel guilt. I felt clarity. The next morning, I made coffee. Same way I always did. Marissa walked into the kitchen, sleepy-eyed, and said, "Cody couldn't get an Uber to school this morning. His account said payment declined." I stirred my cup. "Yeah," I said. I removed my card. She blinked, confused. "Why?" I looked at her, really looked. She wore the same robe she'd had since we moved in together, the one I bought her for our first Christmas. Her hair was still mussed from sleep. She looked more like a stranger than a wife. "Because I'm not doing it anymore." She set down her mug, slow, cautious. "Doing what?" "Paying for everything. Being the only adult in this house who actually acts like one. Carrying 2 boys who've made it perfectly clear I'm nothing to them." She looked away toward the window. "They're kids. They don't mean what they say." I laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly, just hollow. "They're 16 and 14. Old enough to know the difference between a joke and a knife. Old enough to understand what it means to call someone just an ATM." Her shoulders stiffened. "I heard Cody last night," I said. "I was walking past his room." She turned back to me, eyes wide. "What did he say?" I didn't soften it. He said I'm just an ATM, that I need to stop pretending to be a dad. The words hit the air like shrapnel. I watched her flinch, just barely. Then she did what she always did, deflected. They don't understand how hard you've worked. They don't want to understand, I snapped. And you let them. You let them ignore me, disrespect me. You let them treat me like some extra piece of furniture that pays for things. And now you expect me to keep doing it? Her voice dropped to a whisper. You promised to be part of the family. I set my mug down. And what family have I ever been part of? She didn't answer, just like always. Tears gathered in her eyes, but they didn't fall. She blinked fast, like she could keep it all inside if she just looked anywhere but at me. They'll come around, she said. No, I replied. They won't, because there's no reason to. Not when they get everything they want and never have to change. She sat down at the table, hands in her lap like a child being scolded. So what are you going to do? Just stop paying for everything? I already have. A long silence followed. And in that silence, the foundation of the house shifted. Not the wood or the nails, but the weight of the roles we had all pretended to play. That afternoon, Cody texted Marissa from school. Lunch card declined. Alex came home pissed off that his gaming account had been logged out and couldn't be renewed. I stayed silent. Marissa fielded all their questions. Told them it was a glitch, that she'd look into it. But I could see it in her face. She knew the truth, and for the first time in years, she couldn't hide it. That night, she tried again. You're overreacting. I turned to her. Am I? They're just boys, she said. They don't know how to deal with respect. I cut in. They don't know how to deal with basic human respect? She flinched again. I drive them. I feed them. I fix their broken sh*t. I show up, and I do it while being told I'm not a real part of this house. They're confused. They're cruel, I said. And you let them be. You stood there. Every time they ignored me and said nothing, you backed them with your silence. She stood then, angry now. You're their stepfather. You knew it wouldn't be easy. I didn't expect easy, I said, rising to my feet. I expected effort. I expected a partner who wouldn't let me be disrespected in my own home. I expected you to stand beside me, but you picked your sons. Every single time. She didn't respond, didn't even deny it, just stood there, breathing heavy. And in that moment I knew there was nothing left to fix. Later that night, I went back to my office, opened a folder I hadn't touched in years, property deeds, financial accounts, legal documents, and I started collecting everything with my name on it. Not out of spite, not out of vengeance, just preparation for an exit that was no longer hypothetical. I gave them 2 more weeks, not out of kindness, out of curiosity. I wanted to see what would happen when the ground beneath them gave way, when the comforts they never thanked me for began disappearing one by one. I wanted to see if they'd notice, if they'd connect the dots, or if they'd just run to Marissa and expect her to patch the holes like always. Spoiler, they ran. It started with little things. Cody couldn't get into the gym, his access card was rejected. Alex lost his spot in music club because I'd stopped paying the term fee. Their Spotify accounts went quiet. The Uber rides vanished. They started walking to school, at least when they woke up in time. One morning I passed them at the bus stop. Cold wind, hoodies pulled up, eyes cast down like they were too proud to admit what had changed. I didn't slow down, didn't offer a ride, just kept driving. At dinner, if we happened to be in the same room, they stopped asking me for anything. Cody asked Marissa, loud enough for me to hear, "Can you Venmo me lunch money?" And she did. I watched her fingers tremble as she typed in the amount, watched her glance at me, waiting for a reaction. I gave her none, but inside I was done. 2 weeks in, the school sent an email. Alex missed 2 days, no bus fare, no Uber, no one willing to give him a ride. Cody had missed practice. His gear hadn't been replaced since last season, and the coach benched him. They were slipping, and not once did either of them come to me. Not for help, not for an explanation, not even to yell. They acted like I didn't exist. so I returned the favor. Alex tried to register for free lunch. Couldn't do it without a guardian's approval. Marissa called me at work, soft voice through the static. Can you just sign the form? I didn't even flinch. I'm not his guardian, remember? I'm not their dad. Click. No yelling. No arguing. Just the sound of a door shutting quietly and finally. That week I started the paperwork. Not divorce. Not yet. But separation of property. Legal disentanglement. No more joint accounts. No more shared liability. Everything I had built into this house, from the smart home system to the second car in the garage, I listed out and began marking what was mine. Because if I was nobody, then I'd leave with everything that belonged to nobody. Marissa noticed. She came into the office one night while I was printing forms. Asked what I was doing. I didn't lie. Unpacking the fantasy. She looked at the papers. You're leaving. I shrugged. Not yet. Tears came then. The kind that hover but never fall. I didn't think it would get this far. I turned to her. You didn't think anything. You let it happen. You stood there every time they disrespected me and said nothing. You let them believe I was just a wallet with legs. They're kids. No, I said. They're old enough to know better. And you're old enough to have stopped it. But you didn't. You liked the way it worked. Me paying them, smiling at you. She sat down. Looked small. Fragile. Like she had finally woken up to the wreckage. Do you want me to talk to them? I laughed. Talk? They've made themselves clear. They don't want a father. Fine. They don't have one. They want their real dad? Let him come play hero. Let's see how far he gets. And I meant it. The next morning, I removed myself from every financial tie. The water bill, the energy bill, Netflix, insurance, the food delivery apps. I changed the passwords, took back the tablets, the smart TV in the living room, mine, the car Marissa drove to work, titled under my name. The only reason I hadn't towed it was because I didn't need another screaming match at 6 a.m. But I thought about it. I started sleeping on the couch. Not out of protest, but logistics. I didn't want to hear Marissa cry into her pillow at night. I didn't want to see her sit in the dark and realize, piece by piece, she'd let this happen. It was easier for both of us if I was just another shadow in the house. The boys stopped speaking to me entirely. No hi, no bye. Alex slammed his door when I walked past. Cody glared if we crossed in the hallway. I could feel it, the resentment building. But not the kind that comes from guilt. The kind that comes when someone realizes their free ride is over. 3 nights later, Marissa sat me down. Said she'd spoken to their dad. I raised an eyebrow. The ghost lives. He said he can't help. Not financially. I waited. I was wondering, she began. Maybe just until the end of the semester. Just so they don't fall behind. I stood up. No, she blinked. Michael, please. No, I said again. You don't get to build a house on top of someone and act surprised when they stop holding it up. They're falling apart. They're learning, I said. The hard way, just like I did. That weekend I packed a bag. Not everything. Just enough. Enough to let the silence fill the space I left behind. I left a note on the counter. No anger. No drama. If I'm not wanted as a father, don't expect me to pay like one. I heard later that Cody cried when he found it. Alex threw a chair. Marissa called me 22 times in 2 days. I didn't answer, because finally they were living in the house they built. One without me. I didn't leave with a bang. There was no shouting match. No suitcase flung down the stairs. No scene for the neighbors. Just silence. I packed on a Sunday. Early. Before the house woke. I didn't take much, just the essentials. A week's worth of clothes. Documents. Tools. My laptop. I left the gifts I had bought them over the years. The video game consoles. The drones. The bikes. Let them rot in the silence they'd bought with their contempt. I walked out the front door and closed it behind me. Not slowly. Not dramatically. Just enough. There's a strange kind of peace that comes when a man stops trying. It doesn't feel like freedom. Not right away. First, it feels like grief, like standing at the grave of something that was never alive to begin with. You mourn the fantasy, the years, the quiet hopes you stitched into bedtime routines and Sunday mornings. But eventually, the peace seeps in. You realize you're done explaining yourself, done begging for a seat at a table you built. I stayed at a hotel for the first week. Then I rented a short-term apartment on the edge of town. Bare walls, cheap couch, a view of nothing. But it was mine. And more than that, it was quiet. No stomping upstairs. No muffled arguments through walls. No, you're not our real dad. Just my own breath in my own space. I didn't tell Marissa where I was. Not at first. But she found out. She always did. The text started the second day. Where are you? Can we talk? I didn't think you'd actually leave. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I had nothing left to say. The boys didn't text. Didn't call. No surprise there. The only thing that came from them was an automated email from the school. Payment past due. Attached was a note, and signed, "Need help." I deleted it. That's what they wanted, wasn't it? For me to stop pretending? So I stopped. 2 weeks after I left, Marissa showed up at the apartment. She knocked for a long time. I didn't answer. I sat on the other side of the door, listening to her breathe. She eventually slid an envelope under the door. Inside, printed photos. Old ones. From the early years. Me and the boys at a baseball game. Me holding a flat-pack bookshelf Cody and I had built. Alex asleep on the couch with his head on my shoulder. All the moments they'd forgotten or pretended not to remember. There was a note written on the back of one photo. "You were never nothing. Please don't stay gone." It almost broke me. Almost. But I remembered the way they looked at me when they said it. "You're not our real dad. Stop pretending." Not a slip of the tongue. Not heat of the moment. But something rehearsed. Something cruel, delivered like a knife meant to be twisted. That kind of blade doesn't disappear with a few photographs. 3 weeks in, I started hearing the fallout. Jake got suspended for skipping school. Alex was caught stealing lunch from another kid's tray. Marissa called again. Left a voicemail, her voice raw, barely holding it together. They're unraveling. They're failing. I don't know what to do. I almost deleted it. But I listened. Twice. Then I turned my phone off. They wanted their real dad. Let him handle it. Except he didn't. Turns out the real dad couldn't be bothered. Too busy. Too broke. Too distant. He'd send the occasional vague promise. "I'll see what I can do." But nothing ever came. Just echoes. Just silence. Funny how the man they defended didn't even show up when the ground gave way. Marissa started picking up shifts. Sold her jewelry. Cut the Wi-Fi. They went to public school. No more soccer, no more music. Cody's gym closed his membership for non-payment. Alex's braces treatment stopped midway. Metal frozen in his mouth like half-finished scaffolding. I watched it all from a distance. I never said, "I told you so," because I didn't need to. They were living it. She called again one night late. Almost midnight. I was watching reruns on the tiny TV in my apartment, trying to forget the sound of her voice. But there it was in my voicemail like smoke under a door. "They miss you. They just don't know how to say it." I wanted to scream. Miss me? They gutted me. They carved me out with words they rehearsed like a script. And now, with the stage collapsing, they missed the man they told to get lost? No. You don't get to set a house on fire and cry over the warmth when it's gone. A month after I left, I sent her a letter. Typed. Clean. No emotion. Just truth. It listed every item I had removed from the house, every bill I had canceled, every account I had closed. At the bottom, I added a final note. If I'm not allowed the title of father, don't expect the duties. From now on, your family is your responsibility, not mine. No threats, no insults, just a final line. And that was it. That's how I left. I removed myself from every piece of paperwork, every legal connection, canceled the insurance, pulled my name from the emergency contact forms. I even updated my will. erased every trace of them from the parts of my life that mattered. It wasn't vengeance. It was peace. They wanted me gone. So I went. And when I was gone, truly gone, they finally saw what I was. I wasn't a guest in that house. I was the foundation. Without me, the roof sagged. The walls split. The electricity shut off. The heat stopped working. Metaphorically, literally. Cody got into a fight at school. Alex stopped turning in homework. Marissa started asking friends for loans. And still no apology. Not a real one. Not from them. Just silence. Or desperation disguised as nostalgia. The last time I saw them was by accident. At the grocery store, I turned into the cereal aisle and there they were. Cody pushing the cart, Alex staring at the floor. They looked older, tired, smaller somehow. Cody saw me first. His mouth opened, then shut. I nodded, kept walking, didn't say a word, because what would I have said? Hi, remember me? The man who bought your winter coats and got told he was a fraud? No, there was nothing to say. Later, Marissa texted me. Just 3 words. They saw you. I never replied. What was there to reply? I'd already left. Not just the house. Not just the family. The role. The illusion. The prison. They wanted me gone. They got what they asked for. And now they live with the absence. And I live with the peace. So let me ask you, was I wrong? Was I cruel? Or did I finally just believe them? Tell me, would you have stayed?